Breaking news tonight from the White House. President Trump abruptly canceling tomorrow's scheduled visit by the NFL Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. The reason? Jim Acosta joins us now from the White House with details. So what did the president say about the canceling?
Well, what he said essentially is that the Philadelphia Eagles, who were supposed to come over here tomorrow for their White House Super Bowl win celebration, they've essentially been disinvited, Anderson. We talked to a White House official in the last several minutes who confirms that this statement that the White House put out this evening essentially disinvites the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles from the White House, from a celebration on the South Lawn of the White House with the president because of this ongoing issue about standing up for the national anthem before football games. We can put this statement up on screen and show you a little bit of what the White House is saying. Here it is. It says the Philadelphia Eagles are unable to come to the White House with their full team to be celebrated tomorrow. They disagree with their president because he insists that they proudly stand for the national anthem, hand on heart, in honor of the great men and women of our military and the people of our country. So, Anderson, it sounds like the White House, the president, they both have a patriotism test for national championship sports teams to come to the White House. And in the view of the president, the view of this White House, the Philadelphia Eagles, they won the Super Bowl, but they failed the president's patriotism test. And so they're not coming. Instead, the White House says it's planning to have some kind of celebration on the South Lawn with Eagles fans. It's not exactly clear how many of them will show up, given the fact that their favorite team is not going to be here.
It's interesting because, I mean, in the past, athletes have decided not to go to the White House and meet the president for various reasons, but those events have never actually been canceled, right?
That's right, and we saw this dust up with the Golden State Warriors. They were supposed to come here to the White House, but essentially in solidarity with other pro football players who, by the way, we should recall this. The president referred to football players who kneel during the national anthem as sons of bitches. At one point, he said we need to get those sons of bitches off the football field. But the Golden State Warriors, instead of coming to the White House in solidarity with a lot of those football players, they decided to go to the National Museum of African American History and Culture here in Washington. That was a diss, obviously aimed at the president. And so it appears at this point this is not being sorted out. But Anderson, as you just said, there is a long-standing tradition of these sports teams coming to the White House. The president appears to be abruptly cutting that off and saying if sports teams don't pass his patriotism test, they're not coming to the White House to celebrate. Anderson.
Jim Acosta, thanks very much. There's some breaking news on top of Jim's reporting. Eagles wide receiver Torrey Smith has just tweeted calling Sarah Sanders a liar, quoting here, so many lies, SMH, which means shaking my head. Not many people were going to go. No one refused to go simply because Trump insists folks stand for the anthem. And he concludes with this: the president continues to spread the false narrative that players are anti-military. Joining us now is David Gergen and Mark Lamont Hill. David, have you heard, I mean, is there any case like this that you know of?
This is yet again unprecedented. And I think it's sad for the country because these ceremonies have often had athletes who didn't come. Last year, as I recall, when the Patriots came after winning the football championship, there were like 7 players who didn't show up. The president went ahead and had the event. It was good. Everybody, the people came, celebrated, and we went on about our business. This suggests, Anderson, I must say, it has the whiff of a lot more about politics and trying to once again divert us from more serious matters, especially with regard to Mueller and all the controversies. Last minute, I mean, he's known for days that a bunch of them weren't going to come. Last minute, the night before.
Mark, it does seem like this whole NFL question is a convenient way for the president, kind of when things get slow or he needs a boost or he needs to deflect attention, he kind of goes to this well.
That's exactly right. I mean, there were no surprises here. The Eagles made it very clear that some people weren't going to go. The Golden State Warriors made a similar decision last year. That was very clear. There was no breaking news on the Eagles side of things. They decided, the White House decided to make a different decision right now because it allows us to take our attention away from Mueller, to take our attention away from Russia, to take our attention away from all the other things that we could be talking about. It's strategic, but also, Anderson, it's really disappointing given the NFL's policy change last week. This shows that when you cave to bullies, it doesn't change anything. They continue to bully. They were much of the policy change was to appease people like Donald Trump, and it doesn't stop this train from rolling.
Yeah, I mean, it does, David, I mean, to Mark's point, it comes on the heels of the NFL basically appeasing the president by ruling that the teams have to stand or a player has to stay in the locker room.
Absolutely, and so much of this, you know, there are a lot of conservatives, especially on the libertarian side, who object to this. They think it's like your First Amendment rights to be. You know, protesting has been part of the American fabric since the opening days of the Republic, and now suddenly to start making these kind of divisions, and it has this racial tone to it too, which I think is very unfortunate. I mean, the people who are protesting are essentially African Americans over African American criminal justice toward African Americans, and they're just taking a knee. And they've taken something which is not that big a deal and blown it up, and you just have to believe it's for political purposes, for his own good.
Yeah, Mark, I mean, it is very difficult to you know, gloss over any kind of racial undertones to this.
Absolutely. It's also interesting that when the Patriots, which are kind of read in the public imagination as a white-led team through Belichick, through the owner, and also through Tom Brady, when some of them don't want to participate in the White House festivities, they still have it. When you have the Eagles do it, it's a very different conversation. And also, this is a way of putting black players in their place. If you all aren't going to stand the way I tell you to, then you're not allowed in my White House. Not the people's White House, but my White House. It's very, very disturbing, but it also reinforces this idea somehow that he can be the arbiter of who's a patriot and who's not. He can be the decider of what counts as legitimate protest and what isn't. Because right now he's protesting and saying, you know, your First Amendment rights aren't as important as what I value in terms of paying tribute to the military, soldiers, etc. So he's prioritizing his values over players. That itself is an imposition.